Welcome to Romance Unzipped, your happily ever after book club.
Hey,
Hello everyone,
I'm Annie.
I'm Holly. Today we are reviewing Truth and Measure by Roslyn Sinclair, and this is part of a duology of the Carlisle series. And the second book in the series was Above All Things.
Yes.
And it's really just two books that make up one story.
It's
You
just
can't
one
just
book.
read one. It's one book that was released 2 times.
Yeah.
And this is a contemporary romance set in the fashion world. It's a female-female story.
We have Vivian Carlisle. She's the power queen of the fashion world, biggest fashion magazine editor, super kind of revered demigoddess status. And the other person is Jules Moretti, her personal assistant, who is highly educated and wants to be a writer and is very interested in publishing, but is the assistant to this unpleasable person. So,
And
the stakes are high.
Yes, the setting here is in Manhattan. So
of course.
it's all the highest fashion things you can think of. And a big part of this book too is describing their outfits when they go to work each day and when they go to these various like fashion shows. So if you're into a fashion subgenre, this book really leans into that.
Yeah, and it's not cheesy how it's done. Like the person who wrote the book, Roslyn Sinclair, you can tell that she cares about fashion in the sense of how it can also be creative and artistic and this mode of personal expression in this big busy world. So it's kind of an homage to all that style is too, which is fun to read.
Roslyn Sinclair got her start writing the Devil Wears Prada fanfic. Which really comes through in this story. This is very much a Devil Wears Prada kind of vibe to it.
Yes, it is. Yes.
But along with the tropes that maybe you're familiar with the fashion world and Devil Wears Prada, we've got some in this book that are unique, like pregnancy. That's a big driver in this book. Of course, there's the Ice Queen, as we described, this impossible to please Vivian.
Age gap.
Yes, age gap.
Office romance. Forbidden love.
And a bisexual awakening.
Yeah.
It's not a huge plot point, but it's definitely this relationship is the first time that Vivian has ever been attracted to a woman. And it shows up a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. She grapples with the dynamics of it being her underling, essentially, and then the age difference, the power difference, and then just the fact that she's never been with a woman. So it's kind of all these tiered pieces to coming out, which I kind of love how people responded. We'll talk about that later. So point of view, it's a single point of view. The whole book's from Jules.
The duology, it's all from Jules. So she goes by Jules and that's how she thinks of herself, but Vivian calls her Julia. And so sometimes we might refer to her that way. And I think she kind of likes the fact that she's got this, it's like how some people give their love interest a pet name, and in her case, it's just the formal name is her pet name because she's such a buttoned up person.
Yeah.
That too.
Yeah.
So aside from the offices of Du Jour, this fashion magazine in Manhattan, there's also a good chunk of this book takes place in London.
Yeah,
There's multiple trips.
There are a lot of trips to London, and after reading the books, then we looked at some of the reviews, and that was a common theme that people had feedback on is it would have been well served to have it be one book that was perhaps a bit tighter edited, and maybe some of the London trips. It was a lot of scene setting.
Yes.
But also, it was enjoyable to read. You're cruising along. None of it felt like a chore. I wasn't like, oh my God.
Oh, not this again. It was good. It was a slow burn, too. So these trips to London worked that part of the story and gave us this very slow unfolding, where not just where the two of them started to like each other, but a lot of the slow burn was in Julia coming to terms with how much she likes this woman, how obsessed she is with her, growing a backbone, figuring out what is going on. She was a very unreliable narrator.
Yeah.
Because she just had such low self-esteem and let let people get away with anything, especially
as
Vivian.
evidenced by her relationship with her boss, Vivian.
Yes. So that also was kind of a slow burn-esque, where she started to kind of get her sea legs a little bit. So most of the first book was slow burn.
Yeah.
They got together towards the end of it. The steam in the first book was pretty low. There were a couple of scenes,
but it wasn't.
But there wasn't much.
It's very not steamy. It's them, us seeing Jules's growing shift from like goddess worship to conceptualizing like, what if I do have a relationship with this person? She does treat me differently, and then just really seeing her suddenly with new glasses in a sexual light. And so this, her slow roll of how she views Vivian's accessibility, but the whole thing is like heroine worship. Heroine worship. I say goddess because that always sounds like
it's a really hard word.
The street jug.
Yeah. No, there's no drug worshiping in this particular novel.
No. It's part of the fashion world, not part of Jules's. She seems to be like a pretty straight egg, as the people say.
I'm sure I've heard that one before.
So a lot of my notes were like, hero worship, demigoddess, because she holds Vivian in this place where it is totally permissible for Vivian to act with zero regard for how she hurts people. And there's so many instances in the book where the way that she says something, she didn't have to say it.
It's just so rude.
Yeah, and she just is like always just has to have this kind of like sarcastic's too base of a word, kind of like arch dismissiveness of like how absolutely low brow and low performing this person in front of her is, like with a flick of an eyebrow or with, one glance. I'm like, you gotta be so mean all the time. But she does, because she's the boss.
She's the ice queen.
Yeah.
That trope is, I think, the biggest one of this book.
Yeah, and I was thinking about it too with, because a lot of the commentary people are like, Vivian's not very nice. She's not. And I was thinking in the context of if it's a male-female romance and it's like the alpha male, I kind of think of her equivalent role as almost like the mafia psychopath. She's not a psychopath at all. Don't take this the wrong way, but that like kind of like cold-hearted business. And then once I decide that you're mine, I kind of like protect what's mine, but I don't look very nice, and sometimes I don't seem nice. And it seems like this is just from my very non-scientific, totally not any kind of aggregated research, that readers have a lot more space for a cold-hearted alpha than like the cold-hearted alpha S.
Interesting. So there's more tolerance for that kind of behavior from a man than a woman?
Yeah, I guess
Maybe.
that's just a simple way to say it. But it's like kind of exciting and like, trying to like gaining this person's affections. And in this one, I kept being like, God, Jules, you're so codependent. But at the same time, I kind of appreciated it because I'm like, Vivian has very masculine qualities, like not man or woman, but they're masculine qualities.
Yeah, she's got like toxic masculinity qualities.
She does.
Well, one thing that does kind of make her slightly more sympathetic, and she's a hard one for the first several hundred pages of this first book. It's hard to be sympathetic because she is so rude and just dismissive, like you said. But the factors that did kind of soften her to me a little bit is she clearly is very talented and trying to be the best in this industry, and she is at the whims of the good old boys club, the men, the misogyny, and she has to fight her way through that. Yeah. So that does kind of harden her, and that's part of the reason why she's got such a hard exterior shell. And maybe she's just trying to fight back fire with fire.
By pooping on her female assistant.
Yes. Well, so, and then some of the interactions that we hear about from Jules's perspective, later on in the book, Jules has more context into why Vivian is the way she is, and she reassesses memories, and then she realizes, oh, it wasn't so callous, and maybe it wasn't quite like that. So she does, it's hard for me to tell as a reader how much she was accurately portraying. Some of it might have just been she was so afraid, and she did revere Vivian, and she held her to this different standard. in such a way that she didn't even interpret her behavior the way she would from a normal person, from any other person. But really, I mean, she was a bitch to everyone.
One side thought to my simplification of like, oh, it's men can get away with being a dick and women can't. I think the rub for me with where I kind of would roll my eyes at Vivian, because I do appreciate the like cold-hearted alpha ruler in a fiction novel, is that Vivian didn't have the accompanying like stoicism. So she was kind of a victim a lot in her relationship with Jules. And it was not even subtle. She'd be like, but why didn't you do this? Or how could you not? Like little stuff that was kind of whiny-ish. And I'm like, okay.
She was kind of whiny, but I will say she was pregnant. And that's part of the driver of this book. And
I have never been pregnant. You have more than once, so maybe that is a fair...
Perhaps. But it wasn't really described as, oh, she must be having pregnancy symptoms today. She's being whiny. But I could maybe grant her a little...
We will grant you this.
Yeah. She definitely was described as being exhausted a lot, and that will wear on a person.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. She did have maybe victim mentality is not the right way to describe it.
Like the Darvo victim, right? The deny, attack, reverse victim opponent. I just learned that phrase.
Nice. You,
but
pulled it off beautifully.
Like Jules was like, why don't you say you love me? And it ends with Vivian getting mad at her for demanding
that. How could you not tell just from my behavior that I love you? Why would you need to ask me that?
Because once I asked you what you thought about yellow, I'm like,
Yeah, that was me opening up to you. Don't you remember? I told you that I don't like the color yellow.
And also, I'm just kind of on a tangent. I really liked this book. So none of this is in a negative. I'm just having fun dissecting the elements of it being two women and like these kind of what I think of as more feminine characteristics of like needing some kind of emotional validation or like a soothing of emotions, where the male alpha characters usually aren't like, you've hurt me. They're like, bend over, I'm going to spank you.
Good summary.
Yeah.
I really liked this book too. And Vivian, while she was rude and mean, she was fun to read about.
She's totally fabulous.
Yeah, I don't have to deal with her in real life. She was great.
And let it be said, listen to the audiobook.
Yes.
Game changer.
I don't usually listen to audiobooks, and I'm really glad I did on this book.
Yeah.
So we already described the characters, who they are, but Jules Moretti, she is Vivian's personal assistant. She's at Vivian's beck and call all the time, and she can anticipate perfectly every need, every preference, and she really likes her job, but she is absolutely worked to the bone and for very little pay, which seems to be the standard in the fashion industry, at least the way they're describing it in this book.
So she's a smarty.
She is. She's 5'6". She's curvy with a small waist. That's about the only description she gave herself. It was her point of view the whole time. She doesn't say her own skin color. She says she's 25 years old.
Long, dark brown hair.
Mm-hmm. And that's all we get from her.
Yeah, and she really cares about fashion and she spends all the money that she does make, she's not reckless, on fashion. She's really involved in the idea of style and what it is to present herself and how to dress. And I feel like that's a theme throughout the book too, is the way that the characters use and wear and embody what they're wearing as this kind of outward tool, but not in such a negative way, but more like
it's almost thematic in the way that they dress.
Thematic. It's nice.
Yeah. And then our other characters, Vivian Carlisle. She has pixie cut, platinum blonde hair, blue eyes. Jules describes her as having striking features. She's very thin, tall, and she's 42 years old.
And she always wears spike heels, I believe, or heels of some kind, because she said that she's 5'9" maybe, but she's always wearing heels. Mm-hmm. Because isn't that the way? I think that you can only be a super boss lady if you can wear heels.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. That's not true. Let no one believe that.
And she is revered and respected and also feared and disliked. She's all of these things because she's just such a powerhouse in the fashion industry. She's the editor-in-chief of the biggest magazine and has been doing this forever.
Yeah, it's very Devil Wears Prada, very vibes of Anna Wintour, but Anna Wintour has her own distinct look, and Vivian has her distinct look. And we were looking at photos because the whole time I was listening to the audiobook and also reading at different pacings. And there's this movie with Cate Blanchett called Salt. It's set in the 50s. The costumes are amazing. But she's this kind of like haughty, wealthy woman who seduces a shop girl, essentially. And her demeanor with this girl, of this almost kind of imperiousness, really reminds me of Vivian. But then also I was having these Tilda Swinton cheekbones slide in. So it's kind of this mishmash, but that was my visual for it as far as the person. But the narrator did both the voices, and her Vivian voice elevated the whole book for me. It changed the game because she's just this like captured so much nuance with just these little words.
Yeah, just the way she would say Julia.
Julia.
It was enjoyable.
Really? Yeah, it was I was like, oh. And Jules likes it too. I think one of the first times they hook up, she comes just from Vivian talking to her.
Just from talking, yep.
Man.
It's kind of a...
Well done, narrator. And Roslyn Sinclair. So as we meet Julia and Jules, she's in the room as Vivian is firing someone in this like very, just apex predator. It's not about you. It's all about you. I'm here to kill you type vibe. Simple, to the point. And Jules is kind of always admiring of her. It's this like kind of reverence of like, of course this is how she has to do it.
She's fearful as well.
Oh yeah.
But she likes it.
Yeah, she likes it. Yeah, she totally likes it. Yep. She's hot for teacher. So we learn Jules loves to take care of Vivian. So there's like the codependency piece, but also it's just this nurturing element of this really kind of cold person who is so like trapped up tight. And then Jules, who's just effusively loves to care for someone else. And she's locked onto Vivian, who is worthy of it. And like her entire existence is about anticipating every single one of Vivian's needs. She kind of nails it. So everybody needs a Jules, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And then here's the big device of the whole book. What's the scoop?
Well, wouldn't you know it, she realizes she's throwing up and she feels sick and she has all these weird symptoms, and she has Jules go get her a pregnancy test. And she kind of forces Jules to be involved in this whole process. Jules gets the test. She's standing in the room when Vivian goes into the ensuite bathroom and takes the test, and then she has Jules schedule an abortion and then cancel the abortion and then schedule her OBGYN appointment and then go with her to all the appointments. So Jules is unwittingly becoming a very important player, not so much in the professional life, which she's been doing, but now this same kind of nurturing and anticipating needs is really bleeding over into her personal life, because Jules is now in charge of what does the diet look like for a pregnant woman? How much caffeine can she have? Are you eating all your meals? You
can't have sushi.
Right. And so she's just taken this upon herself. And of course, Vivian seems all too happy to have a nurturer.
Yeah.
And this pregnancy is driving everything forward. And at the same time, we learn about this even before the pregnancy, she's in the midst of a divorce.
Yeah.
So she's dealing with that, and Jules finds out kind of through inference and also a couple of questions that are too personal to ask.
And because she's obsessed with Vivian,
right,
and notices everything about like a quirk of the lip. She's like, oh, she quirked her lip.
She just gave me that little morsel of approval.
Yeah, it feels so good.
So Vivian is also telling her to come along to my lawyer's office. I need to talk with my soon-to-be ex-husband, where I'm trying to get full custody.
That's so true. I didn't think about that piece of like, it seems like it's Jules inserting herself into helping, but it's Vivian's very clearly like opening the door.
You better do this for me.
Yeah, and like bringing her into this very personal landscape out immediately. That is so interesting.
Well, later on, when the two of them are in a relationship and Jules is really struggling to get Vivian to say in words how she feels about her. Do you love me? Can I move in with you?
My lip.
Yeah, all these things. Vivian is saying, kind of in her defense, I brought you in. I've never been this open with somebody. I invited you to help me with my pregnancy, and I was comfortable with you to help me with my divorce. So she was using this as evidence of how much she cares about Julia and how willing she was to let her walls down and be honest with her about these, be vulnerable with her.
Yeah.
And this is another area where I think it's a great writing style that we couldn't really tell what was going on at first, because Julia is so self-deprecating and so worried that she's always messing everything up, and she's got so much anxiety about whether or not she's living up to
classic
Vivian
socialized
standards.
Woman.
Yes. And she does get better at that, and she definitely she has more of a backbone as the book goes on. So that's a pleasing arc to read about. But we don't find out some of the nuance of what was going on until later, when we either hear Vivian talking about it, so we get a little bit of another perspective, or we see Julia thinking through it with a new lens.
That's such a good point. And I like that you bring it often to like how reliable the narrator is or not, because she isn't. And I was always thinking with the Julia brain, but then if you take it from the scope of like, oh, she's an unreliable narrator, it's like, she's not this kind of apart, more than human person that Jules is seeing her as, but actually she has been showing her in a lot of ways. So that's really interesting. I like it.
Yeah, she really did let her in to be vulnerable in all these ways with her, but Julia didn't see it that way. She was just so scared, like, oh no, now what do I do? I can't even look at her. I can't pretend that I notice. I can't show her back emotions, even though obviously that's where Vivian was.
Well, it is kind of a one-way street though, because Vivian's just like saying, here, you can help me with all my vulnerabilities. And the ways she wants to help Jules back are very transactional ways of like, I'll tell this editor to publish your article, which is like, no writer wants to be like, oh thanks
for
Mom.
throwing me that bone.
Great, So, but I also, good point. The writing was really good because it is sneaky that she kind of double played, that Roslyn Sinclair kind of double played that of like, oh, maybe she wasn't this kind of demigoddess, or, I mean, of course she is, because she's legendarily brutal. But there's a piece that Julia's not seen. Okay, so she's pregnant. That's one plot device. And also the two books happen over the duration of the one pregnancy. So it's classic love story in a romance. They meet, fall in love, and there's a baby at the end.
Boom, boom, it's quick. Everything happens in the course of those 8 or 9 months.
And so Vivian's at the top of the fashion world, but when you're at the top, people are always coming for your crown. So
that's a whole subplot. I had a harder time getting into this subplot, mostly because I was confused sometimes. But there are some machinations in the background where I think he must be the president of the magazine, somebody that has even more power than she has.
I think it's like the publishing company person. So she's the like Anna Wintour, and he like owns Hearst magazines.
So he is clearly out to get her. At one point, he fires Julia. That's later, much later in the book, but that's the kind of low blow thing he's doing, because he recognizes that, oh, well, this is Vivian's trusted assistant. I can hurt her that way. And that's the kind of authority I have. He can't fire Vivian. He doesn't have that much control, but he can...
I'm gonna fuck with her.
Yes, he can screw with her. So it's clear to everyone, he's trying to engineer a way to push Vivian out. And then Vivian is really close-lipped about what's happening, but she says multiple times to Jules, oh, trust me, I've got this taken care of. And Jules a couple times hears, some gossip in the background, or, oh, maybe this is going to happen, or somebody else is vying for your position. And Vivian always says, yeah, of course, I heard about that already. Just trust me, I have something planned. And she creates this whole surprise attack on this dude who's trying to push her out, where she makes a big party, invites all the who's who in the fashion industry there. And then he has to announce to everyone that he's retiring. And I wasn't really sure how they did that. There was some kind of background, all these people working together to push him out. And it was either he was going to like look like a fool or say that he voluntarily retired. It was, it sounded cutthroat.
Yeah.
So that was going on in the background. It maybe added some intrigue. And it also was more of this timing device. I mean, there was the pregnancy, of course. That's got a very
an attention piece of her like having the first real threat maybe ever to like her power point and her entire identity as the voice of fashion, the editor of this magazine. Like she is she's under threat.
Sometimes I struggle with these kind of subplots in books because I think they're really important, just conceptually, to move things forward and to have more than one adventure that you're going on as a reader, because it just can get kind of stale if you're just, the only tension is between the two characters, for example. It's like, oh my God, you two, will you just talk about this and kiss and make up?
Yeah.
So when you have this stuff going on the side, then that was causing a lot of tension between Vivian and Julia, for example, because she was working later, she wasn't being open about what her plan was, she sprung this party on Julia without warning, etc. But then oftentimes the subplots I don't like as much.
Yeah.
And I kind of have to just get through them to get to the part of the book that I'm enjoying more. And I don't know what that means as a reader.
There's some books where they all equally pull me. The Mark Chavio, that's the publishing
Character in this book, the guy.
Yeah, the antagonist. Maybe part of it for me was he's not really on the page ever until he's ousted. So it's this kind of concept of this person, but we don't see any of their emotional or physical interactions and tensions and all this stuff that brings up. So it's just this kind of idea of him. And Holly and I are co-writing a romance novel. And so it's a contemporary romance, and it's set in San Francisco, and it's male-female, and the guy, Caleb, started this very clever, oh my gosh, we can't even wait for you to read it, dating app, or it's not a dating app, but he has all this growth as someone who has this business, and there's machinations, and there's tons of money, and all those politics, but then we're totally running into this of like how to bring that as part of this tension that threatens their relationship and creates problems without being super boring. Because people are like,
I don't want to read about that.
I don't want to read about a quarterly review.
Nor do we want to write about one. And I have read books where there's not a lot of tension. And sometimes those are enjoyable books, but I don't enjoy them as much. They don't hold my attention. I start to get bored. I like world building for maybe the first half, but then if there's not something else coming, I just start to peter out in terms of my interest in the book. So I know I need something, but sometimes when I'm reading, I just feel like, all right, get back to the good stuff.
It's really hard.
It's tricky.
That's why I guess people are writers, because they're...
You gotta walk that line.
I know. So we are appreciative of everyone's plot devices. And
Yes.
I think that the pregnancy by an ex-husband, totally unplanned in this book, that was really clever. I don't think I'd ever read that in a female. And so that was kind of fun.
Yeah, I liked that. And Julia had her own little plot going on where she was trying to become a writer, and she's pitching ideas to magazines and trying to get published. And that was satisfying to me. Because not only was she going through this struggle, and at first she was failing, and then she was having some success, and that was fun to watch, but her whole thought process of how she's trying to think of what to write, and then she finally does think of something. And she's got this take on fashion of how queer people are represented in the fashion industry, and the way that fashion is not very accessible to queer people, but they are kind of used as a commodity to try to sell fashion, but it's not really made for them. And she kind of had like a thesis about this and was writing a story. And that worked for me. Just the way it slowly unfolded. We didn't have to read her article, but it just came to her in bits and starts, and then we were able to discover it with her.
I think the difference is that we are reading Julia's thoughts and emotions and experience. And so the Mark Tavio, bad boss plotline is, we don't have any of the feedback that comes in when I'm reading something of someone's like visceral, emotional,
true.
Moment to moment of like the high of like, oh my gosh, I see this couple on a bench and this moment, and it captures what I want to write, and now I know how to put it into words. And so,
yeah, because of the single point of view. Maybe that's part of it. Maybe it's the subplot of the character that doesn't have a point of view that falls flat.
Yeah, or how do we get a buy-in? Like, it has to be...
Right. Maybe you can still achieve that. It's just harder because you don't have the thought process to rely on.
Yeah. So it kind of felt with this when I was like reading emails kind of vibes, where it was useful and it wasn't a huge part of it. So
it was a small subplot.
Yeah. But more, it's just kind of fun to think about of like, how do you make a side plot be as engaging, especially if it's of another character who's not having a point of view. Ooh, so many good questions.
Tough, very tough.
We're learning. This was definitely age gap, almost 20 years, which I love a good old-fashioned age gap. But Vivian was very tentative because A, she's in this huge position of power, like she's under a microscope, and B, she's never been in a relationship with a woman. And then also the power dynamic is fucked up, so she was super cautious. And what I liked that Roslyn Sinclair did that smoothed this out for a lot of people. I've read in reviews, a lot of readers have discomfort with that kind of duo of age gap and power imbalance. But Jules was so horny for Vivian. And it wasn't this like yearny, like lady love. It was like, she'd walk in the room and she'd like drop her jaw and like...
Yeah, just like growling almost.
Yeah, and this like want to go masturbate in the bathroom. Just this like intense like lust, which was very... I felt like kind of created this balancing almost, because it wasn't like she didn't know better and she's, chasing this lady around, but her motives were both like admiration and respect and reverence for this lady, but also just like
pure lust.
She wanted her.
And many times in the book, when they'd get to some kind of inflection point in their relationship, Vivian was saying, well, we would have to at least like get you another job. You can't keep working here. That's inappropriate, or the power imbalance is too great.
But no one makes your coffee like I do.
Yeah, and then Jules is saying, no, I want to keep working there. I love my job, and I want to move in with you. I love you. And so she was the one that was pushing everything forward. First one to say, I love you. First one to suggest moving in together.
Yeah.
First one she was really pushing the physical side of things. Because when Vivian Vivian did kind of come to Jules one night and say, okay, this is ridiculous. We are acting like weirdos. I know you have the hots for me because you stare at me with such open lust in your eyes. You can't even keep your mouth shut.
Can't keep your tongue in your mouth.
Yes, it's like Roger Rabbit, just
so
blah, blah, blah.
obvious.
And Jules is like, oh, did she notice? So that was Vivian kind of bringing the subject forward. But Vivian just said, I care a lot about you. You obviously care about me. Let's just have a platonic relationship with no physical component to it. And Jules is like, well, that's not going to work. But okay, fine.
See.
I'll say yes, and I'll just like wear you down. And it wasn't in a non-consensual way, more that she said multiple times, Vivian must be feeling the same way I'm feeling, because there's no way there could be this much chemistry and I could be so into you if you weren't feeling the same thing back.
Yeah.
So Jules was in the driver's seat for all of those kind of decisions. And that was a nice contrast, because there were lots of ways in which the power imbalance went the other direction.
Yeah. And I love this too. Roslyn Sinclair, in kind of near the end of the second book, or maybe the middle, is in Jules's brain and talking about how do you be in love in like an active day-to-day relationship with a really powerful person. So Jules has imbued Vivian with all this power. She like holds her in this elevated position, but also, frankly, like she has a shitload of power. She is a powerful person. She has this like magnetism, like she makes things happen. She has a vision. She rules an empire. Like she's still the queen. So then once you're in this day-to-day with this person and like trying to find space for your toothbrush when you move into their house, like who are you in that context? And so that was kind of a fun thing too that they played with. And like Holly was saying about Jules's growth of like becoming her own person, this was such a good device against it, because it's not, I think a lot of women go through this as they, I did. I know many women who did, like, we get a little bit older and we're like, wait a minute, I don't necessarily need to be defined by the people around me. And Jules is having to do that, but with like the most powerful person in her world, which is the fashion world. What do you think? We never said what the steam was for the second book.
I think in the second book, it's a 4, maybe even a 5 out of 5. It was quite plentiful.
Lots of late 6.
Yeah, a lot going on. One thing that I really liked about this book, and that I think this might have been because I listened to it, and usually I read with my eyeballs, and I was reading with my ears.
Not
this
your
time.
earballs.
Not my earballs. The like sex noises and moans and such that they had were so effective. Usually I kind of skim that sort of dialogue. It just feels unrealistic. It feels juvenile almost. But because I wasn't reading it, I was listening to this like really fantastic narrator. I thought it did such a good job of showing the way that they were so hot for each other, especially Julia. But even when it was Vivian was the one that was saying things, Julia's response to the noises she'd make, or the tone in her voice, or
she would lose her shit.
Yeah, she'd really lose her mind, and it was super effective. So the way they talked to each other, and not just with words, but their non-verbal kind of sex yummy noises,
like
where they're just
gasp.
like. It was really good, and I thought especially in the first book there wasn't a whole lot of spice, but the sexual tension was off the charts just from the way they were kind of groaning when they saw each other.
Yeah.
And it just was super effective.
Yeah, it was great. And really the narrator knocked it out of the park, because the writing is great, and then the narrator, I thought, brought Vivian to life vocally for me. But maybe I would have liked it just as much had I only read it. I don't know. We will never know.
We'll never know.
Yeah, we will never know. So it's really a fun read.
Yeah,
and it is.
I liked it.
All in, it is 800-ish pages. So it's long, but I love the fashion talk, philosophy, passion, and also there's no traumatic themes. So if you are overwhelmed by the world, but still want to have some emotional engagement, I think that Roslyn Sinclair does a good job of that, because we're bought into the experience of these two coming together, but there's not a lot of like hurt, comfort, like terrible things happening.
And there's no third act breakup either.
Yep, they are uncomfortable at times, but then they have sex. And what
makes
we
everything
know
all
is
better.
It fixes everything.
So if you like this, then you might like this. In this case, if you were into the fashion side of this book and the descriptions and the high-paced fashion magazine world, that setting is also pretty similar to Lola and the Millionaires, which we read several months ago. Now that one is an Omegaverse, so it's not the same type of book, but the setting is pretty similar.
And very much a lot of glamour and fashion and male fashion, which is fun too. And then another one that I thought was fun, like a little bit the same, because this is definitely not like Golden Retriever, Black Cat at all. Like there's not that over the topness to it, but Jules is locked on.
Obsessed.
She is obsessed. And then Vivian is like, guardrail, 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 and Jules is just like,
I'm gonna bust right through them.
And so it kind of reminded me of Poetry on Ice by Jesse H. Rain. So it's two men, and they're both alphas, and they're hockey players, but it's like Robbie and Ant, and
yeah, they did have a similar vibe where one is just bulldozing the other, but in a way that's full of love.
Yeah, it's just like rainbow bulldoze charm, but you just can't get rid of me. We're in love. And the other one's like, are we? And he's like, yeah.
Yep, you'll see it eventually.
You'll get there. Also, don't stalk people.
No.
Fiction. Thank you, Roslyn Sinclair, for writing this book. It was very fun to read. I read in the bio, too, that she is married to a woman, or maybe it's in the beginning, she dedicates it to her wife. And one thing I forgot to mention, I really like this one. They have all this steam of like, oh my God, when people find out we're together and we're two women, and they come out, and for the most part, people are like, all right.
Yeah. Excuse me, I'm trying to reach your champagne flute.
Can you pass the salt?
Yeah.
So I kind of love that, because it is that's the case. I feel like with life, I get so overwrought about how I see myself or how people are going to see me and what does it mean, and then when I just am
come to find out, everybody's so worried about themselves, they don't give a shit about you anyway.
Yeah, and also it's just fun.
You can put that on a bumper sticker.
Yeah, it's
concise. Yes. It's going to be like a size font 10 bumper sticker. You'd have to get really close. It encourages tailgating.
So thank you for joining us, and we have a great book coming up next, so you're just gonna have to wait and see.
Yes.
Okay,
goodbye everyone.
Bye. Oh wait, subscribe to our shows too, because we would like that, and put some comments because we like those too. Thank you.